This video, or podcast, whichever form you're engaging with it, is a contained creative expression project in which I'm sharing with you what feels juicy and interesting that I probably haven't shared about before, or at least in this way. I've created YouTube videos before and also had a podcast I started in 2017 that spanned 24 episodes, and both were ongoing things. What I've learned about myself since is that I much prefer to have closure to my projects rather than leaving them open-ended. This allows me to feel more inspired in my work and, most importantly, to pivot to what's lighting me up in the moment. Right now, what I'm being called to is sharing some of my personal thoughts and feelings on a few particular topics. The first being the title of this piece, "It's Time to Take Up More Space." I have done a lot of work to feel safe and comfortable within myself to share my voice. And I often felt an inner contradiction. I could feel my soul's excitement and desire to share, juxtaposed with my wounded self, who believed I wasn't worthy and didn't have anything important to say. And I can't leave out the very real part of me that was afraid to say something in case I said the wrong thing, or the part of me that was afraid of receiving hurtful feedback. My self-love journey pushed me to share myself, and I've been doing so for over a decade. I wrote a book, The Bright Side of a Broken Heart, about the most painful and vulnerable time of my life. I have taught in-person groups and retreats, online workshops, programs, and held countless one-on-one sessions supporting people all over the world on their healing journeys. I can honestly say I fully love myself, that the fears and self-doubt I once carried have been eradicated. And yet, this life is an endless journey of growth, which I completely welcome. I love learning and growing, and that includes being pushed into places that make me a little uncomfortable. I get clear messages when it's time for something to end and when my soul is directing me in new ways. If the term soul is new to you, the way I describe it is the part of you that is greater than your personal self, but unique to you. It's the part of you that chose to incarnate as you in this lifetime, and the part of you that has likely journeyed many times before. Our souls sign up for certain lessons, and if we're willing to listen, our souls will guide us where we need to go. For me, I can receive communication from my soul that tells me what's next when it's time for it. One of the recent messages I've been getting is to expand, to push myself past the edge of my comfort zone and to take up more space, which means being more visible. And I know this message isn't just for me. When I say be more visible, I'm not talking about using tactics to get people to see you. I'm talking about finding the courage within to take steps to share more of yourself authentically with the world. It's not about coming up with ideas from your ego that make you look good, but about connecting to the deeper expression of yourself that needs to be shared. The reason I'm here recording this right now is because I'm being asked by my soul to share more of myself. And when I felt into where I wanted to begin, it was in sharing my voice on some topics that feel alive to me right now, and on some topics that might even be pushing my edge a little. So the thing about taking up more space is that there might be some areas in your life that you are taking up space. Maybe in your personal relationships, you feel really comfortable expressing yourself fully. Or maybe you're an artist and you're in your groove. Or maybe you're like me and you've been showing up for yourself for many years, so it can be easy to dismiss the feeling because you can point out all the ways you're already doing it. The question is, where can you take up more space? Taking up space isn't about stealing space from someone else or taking the mic from someone who's speaking. It's about stepping fully into who you're being called to become in each moment. Where do you swallow your voice when you feel the impulse to speak? Where do you shrink down when you feel the impulse to get bigger? Where do you stall on your projects or ideas or create something and leave it on the shelf? One of my big life lessons is to surrender to my soul. I have created a lot of suffering for myself because I've wanted my life to be different than it is. There have been big transitions in my life that I have resisted because I thought I knew what was best for my life. So I fought the change, but the change was happening no matter how much I fought. When I learned to surrender, I learned to listen. I listened to what life was asking of me, and then I took a deep breath and showed up. I think it's fair to say that every single time I got the calling to embark on something new, it felt difficult. The first vulnerable article I published, the first time I led a breathwork group, the first time I taught a workshop online, the first retreat I held, the first book I published, the first podcast I recorded, and the first video I shared on YouTube. Over the past few years, I've gotten the message that I need to be on stage. Need to be might be a weird way to phrase it. Maybe it's that I'm going to be. Maybe it's metaphorical. But I've received messages from various spiritually connected places that have confirmed this. Now, here's the thing. I have no desire to be on stage. My small self, my ego, is not dying to be on stage or continually expanding the number of people who sit in front of me at one time. But if I'm being really honest, my soul does for some reason. Much of my soul journey has been like this. I have an idea about how my life should go and what I want to focus on, and my soul has other plans. For a short period of time, I had the ability to resist my soul. I buried it way down and pretended it wasn't talking. Well, things did not really work out that well for me when I did that. In 2016, I went through a dark night of the soul, and since that time, I'm no longer able to ignore my soul. I may resist it if I choose, but if I do, I only create suffering for myself. Thankfully, I have learned that the more I listen, the better my life becomes. The reason I'm sharing this is because I think most of us have areas in our lives where we're still staying a little bit small. I know for me, it could be really easy to look at everything I've done and say that it's enough. Except I'm still alive in this body and connected to my soul, so there is more. And this more is not about accolades. It's not about filling a self-worth wound with attention from others. It's not about checking a dream off a to-do list. It's about following the calling of the soul. What that means is that the mind needs to let go and be guided. You may have a gentle nudge in a particular direction and have no idea what the next step is. So you take one step and then you look for the next sign and then do it again. Each time I've done this in my life, it's been challenging and rewarding, like we know the best things in life are. We are social creatures, so I think it's really normal to be oriented to what people will think of us. But we're also alive in a time when we're abnormally connected to more people than ever before through the internet. If you're a highly sensitive person like myself, the way you feel and receive this information is more intense than the average person. So sharing ourselves in different ways can feel like a lot. The foundation of all of the work I teach is self-love. It's the only way to navigate our life journeys from a grounded and clear place. It's the way we can make choices that are the best for us and not addictions that keep us out of emotional pain. So if you want to take up more space and don't fully love yourself yet, or don't know if you love yourself, commit to that work. And while you do it, take up a little more space, a little more space, and a little more space. All along the way, loving all of the parts of you that arise in need of your attention. Being visible and sharing yourself with others is one of the best ways to see what parts of you need your own love. And the whole purpose of sharing yourself is because that's why you're here. You came here to learn and grow. And if you're getting a soul calling to take up more space, you owe it to your soul to take up that space. That space is yours to take up. You showing up in your fullness doesn't take away from anyone else, though there are some thought forms that would have you believe otherwise. There is enough space for all of us, and you shrinking yourself down doesn't help anyone else on their soul journey. If you need some support on your self-love journey, you can look into my program, Good Love. I also run a program a couple times a year called Seen, where an intimate group comes together to move through the fear of being seen. In this program, you'll have an opportunity to respond to some journaling prompts I provide in our sessions and share your voice with the group. The work is to keep listening to your soul and honoring its calling by sharing what comes through you to be expressed. We keep moving through the resistance to do it, loving ourselves through the process, and eventually it becomes fun and enjoyable. The next episode in this series is called Why I'm Still Practicing Breathwork 10 years later, and in it I share the phases of my healing journey through using breathwork as my primary support tool.